I want to say that all this was utterly pointless and foolish. This outcome was totally foreseeable. I said that this would be the outcome when all this began back in mid-September. They did it anyway. Democrats admitted that they used the people as leverage, and they got nothing for their selfish political stunt here. They didn't achieve anything with this at all.
That is the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Mike Johnson. He is a Republican member of Congress, and the Democrats lost. They went down in flames. It was a full kamikaze death spiral because the Democrats, they really are kind of like the Empire of Japan, aren't they? In 1945, on their way out. Well, a very happy Thursday to you, and welcome back once again. You may reach us at 888-630-9625. The Republicans voted to open the government last night, and the Democrats still fought and fought, hammer and sickle, trying to shut the government down last night. How many of them, Michael? 207 Democrats voted last night to shut the government down. Fortunately, 216 Republicans voted to open the government up. The Democrat Party is an un-American party. 6 Democrats crossed the line. They crossed the aisle. They're traitors. They're treasonous. They're going to have to be held to account. Who is it that's going to get vengeance? It's the guy who organized the No Kings rallies. There were millions and millions, according to ABC News and NBC News. They didn't count anybody. They just take whatever Hamas tells them in terms of numbers. Aren't they amazing? Truly extraordinary stuff. But the Republicans and the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, were able to get through the House of Representatives the bill to reopen the government. And so that's good. And the Democrats did everything they could to obstruct it because that's who they are. There are a couple of things that were thrown in. As our last brilliant caller, Mike, said, there are 2 items that were added to what was once a clean, they called it a clean bill, a clean CR, a clean continuing resolution. But it turns out 2 things were added. 2 things were added. And then once it went over to the House, and that was to get out of the Senate, once it went over to the House, if they amended it, then they'd have to pass a new bill and send it back to the Senate for approval again. And the shutdown would not have ended last night. It had gone for days and days, and the Democrats could firebomb everything and pull fire alarms and do what they do. But 2 items added in the Senate before the bill moved over to the House, and then the House voted for it rather than amending it and changing everything and slowing everything down. But one of the amendments, the bill to reopen the government, would shut down these THC products, like the marijuana, tetrahydrocannabinol, the active ingredient in your marijuana. Congress passed the spending bill and hiding in there, added it the last minute in the Senate and then moved over to the House where they did not amend it to change it. That would end a record-long government shutdown. But there's a catch. It includes a ban on many THC-infused products. The last-minute provision in the bill would recriminalize many hemp-derived products, reversing their legalization in the 2018 Farm Bill. 2018 and the Farm Bill. So that's about 7 years ago-ish. The Senate passed the funding package on Monday. Senator Rand Paul, the Kentucky Republican, waged a last-minute fight against it, threatening to hold up the bill until he got a vote on an amendment to strip the THC language. Sure, if Republicans amend the bill, it would have to go back to the Senate. Republicans in the House amended the bill. Then the bill would have to go back to the Senate, and the shutdown wouldn't end. It would not have ended last night, would not have ended yesterday. Republicans seemed largely aligned about avoiding another holdup. Senator Rand Paul and Senator Ted Cruz were the only GOP senators who voted in favor of going forward with an amendment. Isn't that fascinating? So, and then Senator Mitch McConnell, the Turtle, as we know him, the Republican from Kentucky, who authored that 2018 Farm Bill. He's a big stoner from way back. has been a leading proponent of closing the THC loophole, arguing that companies have exploited it to create intoxicating substances. That's naturally, okay? So that's one of the things that was thrown in at the last minute in the Senate, and then the House did not amend it and peel it out. And the other thing is that if you're a member of Congress that was spied on, probably illegally by the FBI and the Justice Department under the corrupt Democrat regime, the Biden regime, and then there was the corrupt Obama regime too, abusing the FBI and the Justice Department and the IRS and the intelligence community, and they abuse every lever of power because they need the leverage. But these two things that members of Congress that were spied on could apply for $500,000, $500,000 in relief if they were spied on by the FBI and had their phone records seized by the FBI and their phones tapped and so on. And the Democrats lie about everything. So those two things were added, and now the government is reopening. But got this THC thing, got the $500,000 for members of Congress if they were spied upon thing. And we opened with a soundbite of Speaker Mike Johnson last night. He, after they moved the bill through the House of Representatives and got it passed over the objection of Democrats who wanted to keep the government shut down, 207 Democrats voted nay. That's no, nay, but they say nay up there because, old school stuff. 207 Democrats voted to keep the government shut down last night, as did 2 Republicans. And 216 Republicans voted to open the government, as did 6 Democrats. So the final vote was 222, like Room 222. So old TV show, Room 222. 222 voted to reopen the government. 6 of them were Democrats, 216 were Republicans, and 209 voted nay, and that was 207 Democrats voting to keep the government shut down, along with 2 Republicans that had specific issues, specific complaints. Now, that said, and one of them was, a home run hitter who wanted that $500,000 thing taken out, but he did not win, didn't win that one. And that is perhaps too bad. But Greg Steube wanted that $500,000 language cut out for members of Congress if they were corruptly spied on by our corrupt KGB, Democrat-run FBI. But let's go back to Speaker Johnson, because he came out and he made a couple of statements. He went down to the White House, and then he appeared on the Sean Hannity program. Actually, I think it was just before the president signed at the White House the legislation to reopen the government. But here is Speaker Johnson last night. He was on the Fox News channel with Sean Hannity.
This shutdown never was about health care. It wasn't about Obamacare subsidies. It wasn't about all the things they tried to make it about, all the false narratives and talking points. It was about one thing, Sean. Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries are from New York. They needed to get political cover because the Marxists are taking over the Democrat Party, especially in their state, and they're worried about their next reelect. That is 100% what this was about from the very beginning. We called it out in the beginning, and it never changed.
Called it out in the beginning, and it never changed. Speaker Johnson having none of it, calling the crooks, Hakeem Jeffries, who is just criminal face. He's just got criminal face. You can tell from still photos. His driver's license photo would reveal that he's a criminal, if you have any instincts at all. This is a guy that if you were on a subway late at night and he got on, you'd change subway cars because he's got the face of a criminal and the conduct of a criminal, too. And, of course, the Lizard King, Chuck Schumer. Isn't that amazing? And Speaker Johnson, he laid it out there pretty good. It was never about health care. It was never about Obamacare subsidies. It was all selfish, greedy, self-aggrandizing, lining their pockets. Chuck Schumer, Hakeem Jeffries, needing to cover for the Marxist wing of their own party, the Democrat Party, who are threatening to primary them. Oh, no, and then they'd lose their fancy jobs where they have all this power and they become Nancy Pelosi rich over time, even though they make whatever it is, $170,000 a year or something as members of Congress, $180-something thousand a year. And then Nancy Pelosi ends up with $280 million in the bank. Wow. How'd that go? Oh, just some good Wall Street trades. Isn't that great? Speaker Johnson last night, he was on with Hannity.
They were more afraid of political retribution from the radicals that now run the Democrat Party than they were afraid about taking the food out of the mouths of hungry families, truly, or about having flights canceled around the country, or making the troops and their families worry about where the next paycheck was going to come from. It was a selfish political stunt. It yielded nothing but pain for the American people. And I think the people it's going to be a long time before they forget this.
Well, first it has to be reported, and CNN, ABC, NBC, MSNBC, The Washington Post, The New York Times will never report anything of the kind. It will never be fodder for late-night entertainment television shows like Jimmy Kimmel and Stephen Colbert. Oh, we got a little Stephen Colbert coming up today, too. Isn't that amazing? Now, the White House Deputy Chief of Staff, the reliably ferocious Stephen Miller, came out last night also after the Republicans voted to reopen the government and the Democrats voted to shut it down again because, they have the guns and it's a shakedown. Stephen Miller, hey, what was this really about? The Speaker and Stephen Miller were not together. They appeared on the same network, but that's it. And Stephen Miller, White House Deputy Chief of Staff.
This is all about Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries being terrified of the Mondami wing, the AOC wing of the Democrat Party, understanding that they're not in control of anything anymore. It is a communist party. Is it an America Last party? It is a party that puts illegals over citizens, criminals over cops, cheaters over hardworking taxpayers at every level. This shutdown was an example of just how little the Democrats care about Americans.
That is a fact, Jack. Very well said, very calmly articulated. The AOC Mamdani wing of the Democrat Party puts illegal aliens over citizens, puts criminals over cops, just as every cop is a criminal and all the sinners saints. They're animating Rolling Stones lyrics from half a century ago. Aren't they amazing? And shows just how little they care about Americans. That is a fact, Jack. Stephen Miller last night.
They forced our national security workers to go without pay. They forced Americans to be stuck at airports, flights canceled at levels never seen before in history. Why? All for what? $1.5 trillion of demands, including free health care for illegal aliens, to bloat the government, to steal from taxpayers, to steal from working Americans. And at the end, after over 40 days, what did they get? Nothing. Defeated, humiliated, disgraced.
Well, the thing is, they actually pay extra to be defeated, humiliated, and disgraced in a recreational way. They dress in funny clothing, and one of them brings a bullwhip, and they love that whole humiliation thing, aren't they? Aren't they amazing? And again, what it all goes back to is an October 6th article in the Washington Post, where the Washington Post reluctantly admitted that the Affordable Care Act was never actually affordable. And so they knew they were going to have to shake down the American people again and again, year after year. And in order to pull that off, you have to create the big lie, like their boy Joseph Goebbels creating the big lie. Aren't they amazing? Yes, they are. Just appalling. And the big lie is affordable. The Affordable Care Act made anything more affordable. That's the macro lie. And then every now and then they're going to come back and ask for another $1.5 trillion. Why are we $37.5 trillion in debt? Because of crooks, thieves, criminals, frauds who are elected to Congress overwhelmingly as Democrats. Not exclusively, but overwhelmingly as Democrats. Aren't they amazing? Yes, they are. Man, and I've got much more. And well, you hear, I got it's not Chunk Todd on Stephen Colbert. It's that other guy, John Carl. Yeah, same thing. Right. So we got that coming up too. Do you know that a recent study reveals that just 1 year after a woman gets an abortion, that woman is 50% more likely to need psychiatric treatment and 87% more likely to experience personality disorders or behavioral disorders. Now, that's not what most people would call women's health. It's what Democrats call women's health. That's actually trauma. But at preborn, the wonderful people at preborn, a woman walks into a preborn clinic and they find real care. Real health care, the kind that heals, the kind that matters. When a woman walks into one of Preborn's network of clinics across the United States, she's welcomed with open arms by loving people. And she can actually see her baby through an ultrasound, waving at her and winking at her, and she's offered a hope-filled variety of choices. And if she chooses life, which she's certainly welcome to do, Preborn continues working with her for up to 2 years, talking about providing maternity clothes and diapers and counseling and explaining what it is to be the mother of a newborn and so much more. Preborn helps care for the whole woman and the precious baby growing inside of her, of course, that human life, that innocent, helpless human life. You know, as you think about your year-end donations, your giving as we're wrapping up the year, consider the greatest investment you could ever make, the gift of life. All you have to do is dial pound 250, and when prompted, say the keyword baby. That's pound 250, the keyword is baby, or you can go to Al Gore's Amazing Internet and visit preborn.com/plant. That's me, preborn.com/PLANTE. Preborn.com/plant. All of your gifts are, of course, tax deductible, and the good people at Preborn have a 5-star rating as a charity. Say no more. All right, we've got more on the and I got to tell you, the propaganda apparatus of the Democrat Party. And John Karl on Stephen Colbert, not even his own network, last night. Wait till you hear this stuff.
We've got to protect our phony baloney job, gentlemen. We must do something about this immediately. Harumph, 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 harumph. I didn't get a harumph out of that guy. Give the governor harumph. Harumph.
A lot more amazing stuff, jaw-dropping stuff to share with you today. Let's go back to the telephones, Michael. Let's go to Ivan, calling from Miramar Beach, Florida. Ivan is not a communist. He's a great American. Ivan, you're on the Chris Plante Show.
Hey, good morning, Chris. How are you this morning?
Hey, Ivan, I'm good.
Hey, Chris, in his speech last night, I was glad to hear the president continue to call for the end of the filibuster. You know the saying, Chris, it says Trump was right about everything.
Yeah.
And he is right about the nuking the filibuster. You know.
Uh-oh. You there? Oh, what is it? I got to tell you, it's a freaky day here, isn't it? I blame the NSA. And it's true, the president did talk last night about nuking the filibuster and doing away with it. So the Democrats can't obstruct absolutely everything in perpetuity, which is their goal as the rabble that they are. But the president did last night make mention again of nuking the filibuster because but just based on this experience alone, the Democrats will pull out all the stops to obstruct anything and everything. And some of them might self-immolate. I hope they do that on camera because, most of them do. Most of the Democrats, when they self-immolate, do it on camera. How many Democrats have self-immolated, Michael? I think eight or nine, which is greater than the number of Buddhist monks that self-immolated during the Vietnam War. And the Democrats have done that just in a couple of years. They're very, very unwell.
I also want to call for a termination to the filibuster so that this can never happen again. If we had the filibuster terminated, this would never happen again. And don't forget, we have another date coming up in the not-too-distant future. We can never let this happen again, and we should be able to pass really great legislation. So I say terminate the filibuster because, by the way, the Democrats will do it immediately if they ever assumed office, which hopefully they won't.
Yeah, which hopefully they won't assume office and control of the Senate or the White House ever again. They should go the way of the know-nothing party, the Bull Moose party. They should be relegated to the ash heap of history, of course. That was President Trump last night, and it's what Ivan was talking about there. And I got to tell you, because we were talking about this during the break, Michael and I, were James Carville, the lifelong Democrat, the raging, whatever he's raging, and that's a raging Cajun. He might be a raging something else, but I don't know for sure. And the Raging Cajun, we played this soundbite a couple of weeks ago, too, because he posted a video of himself where he was declaring when they take over the Senate, guess what they're going to do? They're going to do away with the filibuster, and they're going to pack the Supreme Court. They're going to add 6 justices to the Supreme Court of the United States after they do away with the filibuster, because they are the third world. They are like Soviet communists. They're not on the side of the United States of America, but that's what Carville snarled just a couple of weeks ago, and we played it for you when he did. Now, the extraordinary things that happened last night, pretty amazing. I got to say, let me get to some more audio here, because this morning, very early in the 5 a.m. hour, I was watching the television and gathering news for you, and a Florida Republican member of the House of Representatives, Laurel Lee was making good sense this morning when I was watching her on the television. And, it's pretty obvious stuff, but it depends on where you get your information, what your media sources are. Because if you depend on the Washington Post, the New York Times, and CNN for your news, you have absolutely no flipping idea what's going on in the world and in the United States of America, because they just give you the Democrat Party BS and nothing more. And they attack Republicans all day long. And Republicans open the government, and CNN will say, oh, the Republican caused the shutdown. The Republicans are the problem with health care. And everything is just a gigantic macro lie. Congresswoman Laurel Lee this morning.
The first thing we need to do is make sure that the American people understand House Republicans again last night voted to fund our government to prevent these types of shutdowns, to make sure that our federal workers were paid, just as we voted back in September. So it needs to be clear to the American people that it was Senate Democrats that held up our bill, that shut down the government, that refused to pay our troops. And we finally last night had the opportunity to open things back up.
I've got to say that's exactly right, and I'm happy to look. I'm not sitting here loving the Republican Party every day. They're far from perfect, but the Democrat Party is the Soviet KGB under Joseph Stalin. They are the third world. They're anti-American. They're un-American. They're anti-capitalist. They Mamdani and Ilhan Omar and the third worlding of the United States of America. They're so not on our side. But the problem that Congresswoman Laurel Lee is talking about there, the American people need to understand that it was Republicans that voted to open up the government, as Republicans did back in September, and did 14 or 15 times as the Democrats voted to shut the government down 14 or 15 times. And the news media never fairly reported any of that, nor do they have any intention of fairly reporting going forward either. Just amazing stuff. And I've got to say, the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, and Senator John Thune in the Senate, the Republican leader, majority leader, thankfully, in the Senate, they stood strong. They square-jawed, stood tall, and dug in and didn't cower. And when the news media accused them of all kinds of falsehoods, they actually laughed in their faces a couple of times. Congresswoman Laurel Lee.
They made every effort over the last 6 weeks to try to extract liberal policy concessions as a condition of reopening the government. Republicans stood firm. We said, no, that's not an appropriate tactic. We need to turn the lights back on and serve the American people. And once that's done, we can have policy conversations about the issues that affect our country. But holding our troops hostage, not paying our federal employees, never the appropriate way to try to get something done.
I would certainly agree with Congresswoman Laurel Lee on that. And, the Democrats ought to be showed up here or shown up all over the place. If the news media clobbered them the way that they would clobber Republicans, if Republicans were, Republicans are the good guys, and still they're the villains of the story on CNN. They're the villains of the story on NBC. In the Washington Post, they're the villains of the story. How many lives do you have to save? How much chaos do you have to stop before anybody in the news media tells the truth about anything? Just extraordinary. Extraordinary. Womp, womp, womp. I'm telling you. All right, let's go. We've got this ridiculous Hakeem Jeffries, who is a criminal. Just look at his face. You know that if you saw him out at night walking in your neighborhood, you'd cross the street to get away from him. You get back to your house, you'd consider calling the cops. I saw this guy with a criminal face walking on the sidewalk in front of my house. Here comes the House Minority Leader, Hakeem Jeffries. The word is now they're going after Schumer to kick him out of leadership, and they're going to go after Hakeem Jeffries next to kick him out of leadership. And that'd be a good thing for everybody, for the planet Earth. That would be a good thing. But here is the lion Sacagawea, Hakeem Jeffries, lying last night. And, boy, he just lies about everything. He lies like Joseph Goebbels. Goebbels, on his spit rotating in hell, it would be red-faced over the lies that Hakeem Jeffries tells.
House Democrats will continue to fight to address the health care crisis that Republicans have created.
What?
And House Democrats will continue to fight to extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits for tens of millions of Americans. This fight is not over. We're just getting started.
Whoa, oh, amen. Somebody said amen, and then they were struck by lightning and killed. That was kind of funny, I thought. Hakeem Jeffries, the fight to address the Republicans have created a health care crisis. Right, yeah. Another $37 trillion in the Democrat Party's pockets and their allies who have corrupted the hell out of the greatest health care system in the history of humankind. Obamacare is that crisis. Hakeem Jeffries is a bigger liar than Joseph Goebbels ever could have dreamed of being, or Gurgle, if you prefer. Isn't that amazing? All right, but that's the lie that he came out to tell last night, because he lives in a third world country. His brain is a third world country. His party is a third world country. And when they take over, Ungala Bungala, we're going to be a third, we're damn close now to being a third world country. The national debt, the abuses of the Justice Department, the FBI, the intelligence community, opening our borders. The Democrat Party is the third world. Make no mistake. All right, let's go back to the telephones, Michael. What do you say? Let's go to the great Angela, calling from Montclair, Virginia. I feel like order has been restored to the universe. Angela, you're on the Chris Plante Show.
Yeah, thank you, Chris, for taking my call. I am concerned about the midterm elections. Whenever you have the Democrats, they're lying about what happened with the whole shutdown. They're blaming the Republicans. The Republicans are blaming the Democrats. To me, the Republicans, they don't have their messaging. They're not doing their messaging correctly to make sure that the blame lies at the feet of the Democrats. Now, each camp is going to their people, and all the people believe in their leadership. There are a lot of Democrats. I was listening to C-SPAN this morning, and the Democrats truly believe that it was the Republicans that allowed people not to have their SNAP benefits and all of this stuff. And as far as the health care, wasn't that was extended during COVID and was supposed to expire because, it was some type of COVID supplement or during for the health care, and it's due to expire, and they want to tack on $1 trillion. Right. And a lot of people being so uninformed, not understanding that the continuing resolution, they've always voted on that. And as far as the extending that health care, that should be argued on the floor of the House that holds the purse strings instead of being passed through. And a lot of people are not understanding that. I am concerned about the midterm elections because each camp is believing their leadership. So to me, they canceled each other out as far as who caused this and who should pay for this. And as long as the Republicans are not, they should start right now, especially in Virginia. It's Vindman in my area. He's my congressman. They should start right now getting their commercials and everything together and getting the facts so that people can understand exactly what happened, what they were trying to do, the extending it to illegal immigrants, which is one of those 80-20 issues that we can win on. But their messaging is so bad as far as I'm concerned because there are still most Democrats, and I have a family full of Democrats, they still believe that it was Trump, President Trump, and the Republicans that caused this whole thing, and nothing could be further from the. So how do we neutralize their lies? They're blaming the Republicans for it. And so I am concerned that the blame is they're not going to pay the price that they should pay for what they did and how evil they were in the way that they went about it. They were willing to let the American people go without air traffic control. It just so much. They should pay for that. And so how do we go about doing that, getting the messaging correct whenever we have both camps believing their leadership? And I am concerned about it.
Well, you have every reason to be legitimately concerned about that, Angela, because, you know, it really is the ethos of the Socialist Workers' Party of Adolf Hitler lives on in modern America, and the Democrat Party carries it forward with their fake Antifa mob violence in the street. You know, Antifa is a left-wing terrorist group founded in Germany in the 1930s, and the Democrats picked up the mantle and the sword and the shield, and they're fighting against civilization. And their boy Joseph Goebbels, remember his favorite line, "A lie told once remains a lie, but a lie told 1,000 times becomes the truth." That's
exactly
Joseph Goebbels. And you know how the Democrats love Joseph Goebbels.
Did I hear you correctly say that perhaps he was influenced by Goebbels?
Might have been Gurgle, as you know, and that's about information dominance, Angela. And you know the Democrats, the media propaganda apparatus that they have in place is boundless. And in fact, I've got another soundbite that we brought in today, because a couple of sound bites actually, because Jon Karl of ABC News went on CBS late night with Stephen Colbert, and the propaganda apparatus of the Democrat Party is really the envy of Joseph Goebbels and the propaganda apparatus of the Nazi Party in Germany in the 1930s and 40s. Just amazing. But hang in here with me, Angela, because, and I love she's chuckling in the meantime, which is just wonderful. And here's ABC Fake News, Jon Karl, on with CBS Fake Entertainment, Fake Comedy, Stephen Colbert, just last night.
Democratic senators are dealing with the fallout of having voted with Republicans to end the shutdown. Have you...
They
it doesn't
boo
help now, but
to open the government.
Have you talked with any of these 8 senators?
Yeah, I have, and I've also talked to senators who were against this and wanted to continue the fight and wanted to continue the shutdown and to force the Republicans to give in on health care.
Which was the stated goal by Chuck Schumer and others.
Yeah, like we're not going to back down. We're going to insist on this.
We have to make sure that we get the ACA subsidies.
Yeah.
Subsidies, which were voted on in the Congress and agreed they were temporary because of the Wuhan Red Death inflicted on us by the Chinese communists in Wuhan, China, and all of that. And then that period expired, and the Democrats said, well, screw that. We're just going to keep them going. Again, Jon Karl, he talks to everybody. They go camping.
But I got to tell you, my conversations with senators who were technically opposed to this, Democrats, were actually happy to see this end. I mean, the shutdown had gone on for 43 days.
They were opposed to it,
but
they were for
this issue of the fact that, for 20-plus million Americans, health insurance premiums are going to skyrocket on January 1st.
Because of Democrats.
The Republicans showed no signs of giving in on this at all. Airports were ground to a halt. People were about to lose their food stamp benefits.
Healthcare and airlines.
And I think there was a feeling like, you know, we've elevated the issue and it's time to move on, even as you heard a lot of people complaining about it.
Jon Karl said, technically, they had both sides of that. He gave the Democrats both sides of that. They're opposed to it, and they're happy to see it end. See that? And the word happy, Angela. Isn't it great to be a Democrat? Because that's what the network news does for you.
Well, I think the Republicans need to take a page or the whole book from President Trump. The way that he went about during his campaign, he went to a lot of the different podcasts and TikTok, and he was able to speak to supporters of the Democrats and convince them of the truth. And the Republicans definitely need to do this, because what happened with that shutdown was devastating for a lot of people, and they need to They need to suffer for it. They need to lose their seats because of what they've done. And a lot of the Democrats are not going to know that that's what their leadership did, use them as pawns, and they need to go on all the different social medias. They need to copy what President Trump did as far as getting his message out. They need to do the same thing. They need to pay for what they did. It was really evil to hold the American people hostage the way that they did in order to get this $1 trillion. And who's to even say that it would even go for what they create all types of slush funds.
Yep.
So who's to even know that it would even go for what it was, what they say it was going to go towards? I am really upset about this. I am upset that they're blaming the Republicans. I am upset because Republicans aren't doing their messaging correctly, and they need to get it done now and help the American people understand exactly what happened. I'm concerned about that.
Well, again, I think you have every reason to be concerned about it. And look, again, it's about information dominance. It's about the lie being told 1,000 times becoming the truth. It's about John Karl from ABC with Stephen Colbert from CBS working colluding with one another, working in concert to pretend that the Democrats just wanted to do the right thing, but they couldn't. It's all them. 100% of it is on them. And if I thought the Republicans had behaved stupidly on this, I would say so. But I got to tell you, the Democrats are behind all of this. And then the lie becomes so big that Joseph Goebbels would not dare to not believe it. The lie so gigantic. Oh, yeah, John Crow. Oh, the senators really wanted to continue with the shutdown and force Republicans to give health care. You guys fixed health care 15 years ago. It's called Obamacare. Coming to us today and asking for another $1.5 trillion should land you in handcuffs.
Mongo only pawn in game of life.
I've got some California Governor Gavin Newsom. He's in Brazil for the climate summit. They're talking about the weather. Hey, the weather is kooky, isn't it? Nice jet. Let's go back to the telephones before we get to. Oh no! Look what I've done to the clock. I've done it again. That clock just keeps on ticking, doesn't it? And wait till you hear this stuff out of Brazil. The COP summit. It's the climate summit. Hey, do you think that what's her name is there? Huh? You think she's there? Yeah, Greta Van Thunberg. Think she took a private yacht down to Brazil for maybe it's much better to fly private, don't you think? Because you're going to talk about the climate. You can always buy offsets with somebody else's money. That's coming up, too.